Welcome back to another episode of Balancing Healthy, and welcome to part 3 of my little mini health series I've been doing. If you're unsure what I'm talking about, just go back the previous 2 episodes, listen to those in order first, and then come back to this one because today's episode is kind of like it's the exciting part in terms of where life really changed for me and where it started to get better, and I started to, step into myself as a coach and, step into balance as a whole and figure out how to do fitness and life and goals and all the things. And I've been coaching for 4 years now. So it's really kind of like that start of 2022. Wow, I should nearly just butchered the way I said that. From Jan 2022 kind of onwards, which is really, really, really exciting. So I can't, to be honest, fully remember where I left off last week's episode because it's been a couple of weeks since I recorded. But from the notes that I have, we're going to get straight into it. So from Jan to May 2022, this is, and I do remember this very specifically, it's where I had quit F45 because I was just like, it just wasn't the vibe anymore for me. I was like, I want to do something of my own. I remember I was waiting for my local BFT to open at the time. I remember they said they were going to open in Feb that year. And then it was March, and then it was April, and just never hearing from them. And I was like, this is really fucking weird. So I kind of took it upon myself to join a local gym, which I'll get to in a second. But kind of March 2022, I also finished my Cert 3 in fitness. I was still doing my Cert 4. Well, I had started my Cert 4 at that time. I think I'd already started my nutrition as well. So I was starting to kind of learn the things, if you will, and get the qualifications, but I was still not fully sure what I wanted to do. And I started seeing my partner at the time. Sorry, I'm still dating him, but at that time I started seeing him, which I think is such a pivotal part in my journey, because in the previous episode, I know I spoke to how things got really deep, it got really dark, it got really I refused to go out, I refused to eat anything that, wasn't cooked for me. I wouldn't have a drink. If I did, I would binge. I really struggled in social situations. I was really insecure. Still get little bits of social anxiety, but nothing compared to what it was back then. It was really, really quite bad. And so I'd started seeing Mitch at that point back in March, April-ish 2022. So I said, really, really pivotal, because I remember we just went out for some drinks. He would cook for me and I had no issues with it. We could go to the pub, which we still love the pub. We could do things like that, and I never felt insecure. I never felt, guilty around the food. I never felt a certain kind of way around these things. So when I think looking back, again, I didn't realize at the time, but looking back, I'm cool, my relationship with food just really had come so far from where it was 2 years earlier, because I could do all these things and essentially have my life back without really, thinking too deeply into it, which is really, really exciting. So I definitely was already on my, my way back to healing my relationship with food. And then kind of May 2022, that's when I signed up to Anytime Fitness. Especially my first local gym. It was not at all. I guess changing. I don't know what you call it. My first I don't know. Anyway, signed up to Anytime Fitness because where I was living at the time, there wasn't really many gyms around, which I'm not going to say where it was, but I'm just there's not really any gyms here. But Mitch was also a member of this Anytime as well. And it was in between our houses. So I was stunning, so easy. We could go before work and whatever. So that was fun. But then I was okay, now I need some kind of structure to my sessions and my training, because again, whilst I had finished my Cert 3, I hadn't finished my Cert 4 in fitness. I didn't really know how to fully program yet, because just side note, if you are doing a Cert 3 or 4 in fitness and you feel I don't really what am I learning? You learn so much more on the job, and you get your own systems and processes, and you just learn so much more. But back then I was oh, I've not even worked in a gym yet. I literally have no idea what I'm doing. And yes, I just kind of need some structure, some accountability. So in August that year, August 2022, I hired my first one-to-one coach, and I remember getting on our call, and I remember I'd been eating roughly 2,100 calories a day as my maintenance, if you will, which had been set for me by a previous coach. And I remember getting on a call with her and she looked me dead in the eye and she was like, Sarah, your maintenance is easily 2,500. And I remember just this like sigh of relief. I was like, 2,500, like that seems like a lot, which again, for someone who ended up eating 1,200 calories at one point, I was like, whoa, this is like more than double. And the point that I was at with that 2,100 calories I was eating, because I had done such a gradual quote unquote reverse, if you will, with a lot of binge eating involved, but because I had been tracking very slowly reversing, I was still struggling with this isn't enough food, and that's why I was still struggling with binge eating. Nothing like what it was in 2020, but it was still like I would still have days because as an overall I wasn't eating enough, and obviously I was training now like with more intention, so it was like my body needed more food. Again, didn't realize that at the time. So I hired my coach, jumped on a call. She was like, yeah, cool, like 2,500 easily will get you to. And I was actually, oh, sorry, I just kicked my microphone. I was actually going on a trip to Ellie Beach in the September. I remember the coach had an 8-week minimum and I nearly was like, oh, like, you know, can I pause? Can I do this? Can I do that? And I was like, you know what, fucking hell, I'm just going to sign up. Like I was like, I need this and I know I need this. And it was one of the best things I ever freaking did. Because yeah, she healed my relationship with food. And I'm going to go more into the story, but pretty much healed my relationship with food, got my calories up nice and high. You know, we've done deficits in the time since, like this was 4 years ago at the time I'm recording. Obviously it was 4 years ago. There's been a lot of work that I did that I have to thank her for. So, she was so helpful for me. I went on holiday. The fact that I'd already started healing my relationship with food, I went to Early Beach with my best friend, and again, there was nothing like guilt or like food noise or any kind of thing involved with it when we went to eating out, when it went to cook, like going to the shops and buying food to cook for ourselves. Like there was no kind of issue with that. It was just, yeah, wholesome. I did actually look into like, if I go to Ellie Beach, and I'm actually, no, oh my God, cool moment. I remember saying on the call to the coach, I was like, oh, like, you know, I'm going to Ellie Beach, but like I can find a gym and I can do my training there and like yada, yada, yada. And like, she was like, you literally like don't have to, like just chill out. And I remember looking at Ellie Beach, and if you've been to Ellie Beach, you'll know, I was like, where the fuck is a gym? Like, where do I even go? Like, I was really struggling with it. And depending on holidays and stuff, you might have gyms in your hotel, you might have local gyms, and like, you know, you can train on holiday if it makes you feel good. I'm going to Thailand in a couple of months, and I'm like, there's a really nice looking gym in our hotel, and I most likely won't be doing my usual gym, but I'm like, it'll probably feel good to move since I'm gone for like 10 days. But anyway, point being, she was like, it's actually okay if you don't. And I remember being like, oh, really? Like what? Like I just remember, again, breath of fresh air. I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, and I was just like starting to see like, okay, it's okay to do these things, and I didn't have to have guilt associated with it. And when we're in Ellie Beach, we were actually staying Cannon Vale, which is like just outside or just before or something like that. So we'd do like the boardwalk walk like every morning. Like we'd go grab coffee and then we'd go for our walk, and it was like 2 hours. So like we're getting plenty of movement in, but there was still, again, like no guilt association with eating out or, you know, not training or whatever the thing looked like. Like, and again, for someone who had been training at a 45, I'd got up to like some weeks, it was so dependent on the week and what I had on, but there were some weeks when I'd do like 6-7 sessions, and to go like 2 weeks without, I was like, oh, this is so crazy, but that's so fair. Something I should say as well in this time, because it all kind of happened together. I'd started shadowing at MFW, where I work now, in women's only gym. I started shadowing, and pretty much the moment I got back from Early Beach was, okay, I'm working 3 days full time in an office. I'm working one morning a week at MFW. That very quickly, within like a few days, turned into 3 mornings a week. I was like, there's a lot going on. I was studying my nutrition. I was studying my Cert 4 in fitness. It got to the point where I, you know, had quit my full-time job so I can go full-time into the fitness industry. There's like so much going on at that point. And again, at that point was only training twice a week. It was the back end of the year. There was so much going on. I was training people. I was shadowing extra hours. I was working so many hours. I had to travel as well. I didn't live near either workplace, so it was a lot of travel. I remember my Wednesdays ended up being from like, I'd wake up at 4:30, leave the house by 5 a.m., get home at 8:30 p.m. Like, it was like, there were big days. And like, to know that like, if I hadn't had my coach at that point to be like, cool, like we're only going to train 2 days a week, I would have like been killing myself to try and get in as many sessions as I could, because that's what I had known prior. But again, that time working on finding the balance with health, fitness, food, training, like everything, it just made it, it's like that breath of fresh air, which is what coaching is so good for. It is so, especially one-to-one, but even like when I run my group programs, my group challenges for Balancing Her, it's like, it's so refreshing to know that like you can actually pull back when you need to, you can go hard when you need to. Like, life changes with different seasons, and I don't want to go too deep into this because I'm very aware that I have another episode coming in 2 weeks all about like the different seasons of life in the last like 12 years to me, which, you guys, when you hear it, like, it's actually crazy. Those who haven't known me throughout, oh, you gotta buckle up for that one, because it's insane. I'm like, how have I got through everything I did? But to bring this back to health and fitness, so we'll go back to that kind of November, December period, 2022. Actually, I think I went through it all. Oh, that's right. I very importantly want to say, even though my coach had an 8-week minimum sign up, I stayed beyond that. I was with her for, we had a little break at one point, but then we officially separated ways in, I want to say, the start of this year, so January 2026. So we're together for a long time, which, you know, I think is such a key thing. Again, like, you can learn a lot in 12 weeks, especially if you're new, but there's something to be said for staying beyond that and having a coach guide you beyond that. Because again, life changes fast. It might not be as fast as my life has changed many times in the last 12 years, but life changes. It's like, shit, how do I navigate this new season? What can I do? What's the next step? How do I pull back? How do I ramp it up? You know, like, so many things can happen. And I just think it's really beneficial to have someone to coach you through the different moments, so then you can go and do it on yourself afterwards. And again, I've been on my own now, just doing my own program. Again, I'm doing the same program for like, I've been doing it since May. What are we? August. So since like May, I've changed the slightest things. And I'm like, that's all I need. I just need to get in, get it done, get out. I am doing my own deficit at the moment too, which we'll get back to in a second, because something I did want to touch on, like I said, continued to work with that coach for years, but, very pivotal moment. I went to my Instagram and I found where my first deficit was after healing my relationship with food. So just a quick recap, I started healing it in 2021, joined that coach one-to-one August 2022, did a lot of work. Like, we spent a year, must have been a year. Yes, a year in like reverse maintenance building. I obviously spent time before that out of a deficit, but with my coach, it was a year like that, which some people, it needs to be that way. And then we went to a deficit. It was probably about a month after I launched my online coaching business. Like I said, I was working quote unquote full-time in the fitness industry. I say quote unquote because full-time in the fitness industry is so like, it can be anything, and it's not just your 40-hour, 38-hour, whatever the office typical work week is. It's so dependent and different, and there's a lot that comes to play, which I'm not going to go into. But so I was working in fitness. I think I had increased my training days to 3 days at this point, probably, because I'd gotten rid of the office job. I was just kind of like trying to figure everything out, and then here we go. The 6th of August, 2023 was my first deficit in 18 months. And I'm going to read the caption of what I wrote in that post, because I think it's really, really, really important. So in that post from the 6th of August, 2023, this was on my Coach by Says Instagram page. I mean, you can have a scroll if you want, but it's a long way down. It's been 3 years. But I wrote, tomorrow is officially the start of my first deficit in 18 months. That in itself is a huge milestone for me, because since I started my journey back in 2017, I lived in a deficit. All I knew was weight loss, and I was petrified of putting on weight. I restricted for years, and it led to some very unhealthy habits. It's funny, whilst writing this, I was thinking about other goals I could put in quotation marks, no alcohol came to mind. But then I realized I barely drink anymore. In brackets, how times have changed. In quotation marks again, I was going to put limit going out to eat, as I would have previously done that because I didn't have the knowledge to know how to eat out and still stay on track to achieving my goals. Fortunately, I'm no longer in a position where I refuse to be social out of fear. And then on there, I wrote, notice how I haven't put any weight or body related goals because I'm a habits girly, and it's those everyday habits we develop that attribute to us maintaining the weight loss once we have healthily shed the weight. That was all directly from my post 3 years ago, and I stand by it. I still, if you look at my deficit recaps currently, would say the same thing, right? And it's because, like I said, it's like I've learned how to do it and my coach taught me how to do it, and this is what I teach my clients how to do. And it's just that thing of I used to be so scared of being in a social situation, so scared of being unable to track something, so scared of being unable to eat out without the fear of oh, is this going to completely destroy me? And I think it's that thing as well of knowing when eating out is still in a deficit or knowing when you've overdone it. So for example, it was about a week and a half ago, I think. I was at the footy and I had tracked everything all day, but it was a nighttime game and I was hungry, slay. Went to Marvel Stadium, had this really incredible, it's like a pork belly rice veggie bowl thing, and it is so good. So I went to find that. Turns out they didn't have a pork belly one. They had a barramundi one, but it was like a big piece of fish that, to be honest, didn't look that amazing. And I was I'm not going to sit there cutting it up. So I just went for these barramundi tacos. Yum, so delicious. But I was it was quite a small meal. And I can't off the top of my head remember how many calories I had left for the day. But I was it's quite a small meal. Not, it's not the end of the world. By the time I got home that night, it was 11 p.m. and I was I'm actually really hungry. Mitch wanted to go to Macca's because he clearly hadn't eaten anything or eaten enough. And I was I'm going to get a small caramel sundae because I really want one. And I actually don't think it's going to do me any harm. Literally the next day I woke up I want to say it was 600-700 grams lighter than the day before. That I knew was not going to be doing me any harm in my deficit. Whereas the other day, we went to the footy again just a couple of days ago. And I knew I was going to be out all day. I just didn't know where the day was going to take us. And I had a couple of drinks, still zero sugar drinks. That's just the way I go. Just because I, not in a terms of I'm being healthy, but I generally, the sugar in a hard rated or a full Coke and vodka, the sugar does something. It gives me a headache and it makes me tired and I feel shit. Whereas when I have something zero sugar, I actually feel fine. So I always go zero sugar. But for lunch it was a daytime game. I had a chicken wrap, which was yummy. And then I was sharing chips with my mum. And then she decided they were too spicy. So I had the rest of them and I was yummy. And I was not the most ideal in a deficit, but dinner can be controlled. Truth be told, we had pizza for dinner. Just again, this was 8 hours later. We had pizza for dinner. I was yeah, I'm hungry. I definitely ate less than I would have usually if I was in a maintenance phase because, again, I'm very aware of what I'm eating. But I still knew that chippies at lunch and a pizza at dinner is not going to do me any favors. And, again, that was just my own choice. But it is that thing of, I had the knowledge. I was yeah, cool. That's not going to do me any favors. Whereas the week before I was no, I think I'm so fine having my Sunday. And I was fine. Do you know what I mean? So it's having the knowledge of not only your deficit, calories, what's in food, how much protein there might be, getting in your veggies, all that kind of thing. It's also understanding your body and knowing your body through different seasons, knowing what's going to nourish it, what's going to honor it. For example, the barramundi tacos. So I should say when we're at the MCG, the food that was near us, I didn't see anything like they have at Marvel. Otherwise, I would have got those barramundi tacos again, or I would have got that pork belly bowl because I don't know why they have this fancier food, but so good at Marvel. The G didn't have that for me, which is very upsetting. So it's still working with what you've got, but still every decision is still your own decision. And I'm very aware of that. I chose to eat the chippies. They were fucking yum. And I chose to have the pizza that night. So still you can have the knowledge and it's still those decisions, which again, like I said, having a coach is obviously ideal for that. But anyway, back to that deficit, that first deficit I'd done in 18 months. So back in 2023, I lost 4 kilos and 18 centimeters in the 12 weeks, which was stunning. I already said I started this deficit just after I launched my coaching business, but it still took another 6 months to step into balance based on the industry at the time. And that is something that I would love to touch on, because back when I started coaching, everyone demonized going out to have a drink, going out to have a meal. You should be tracking this. You should be tracking that. Blah, 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 blah. So I felt like I had to be a part of that. And it was about a year later, what would have been less than, I really started stepping into it, because I remember I posted a photo of me with a glass of wine, and the amount of responses I had on that story, I was like, what the hell? That was like, did not expect that. Everyone was just like, oh my God, like so nice to see that, you have a glass of wine, or you enjoy this, or you enjoy that, whatever it is. And I remember I said that to my mentor at the time, and she was like, yeah, why don't you, like, if that's what you enjoy doing, why don't you actually lean into that? And I was like, you're so right. Like, I fucking love a pub meal. I love to go out and have a drink. I'm not shying away from that. And that is where Balancing Healthy was born. So I launched Balancing Healthy, this podcast, in September. Well, I launched it in October, but we birthed it, did the photo shoots, all the things in September 2024. And then Balancing Her was reborn in December 2024. It used to be Elevate, and then it was Balancing Her. And then it's just like, and like everything you know about me today, Balancing Her, Balancing Healthy, all the balance that I post on my socials, it's like, this is what it stemmed from. It was like, cool, like I'm going to post about it. I love to do these things. And then a side note, the industry turned, and it was like, no, you can go out to have drinks, and you can do this and you can do that. And then this year it turned again, and I'm like, I'm getting sick of, and it's probably my algorithm, but I'm getting sick of the balance being like good, bad, good, bad. It's like, no, if you learn how to do it right, it's good. It's never bad. Yes, some people take balance. They might see something I post and go, cool, Sarah said I can have a burger for lunch and a pizza for dinner and an ice cream for dessert, and that's balance. It's like, cool, I actually never said that. That's your interpretation, and that's your choice as an adult to interpret that. You could message me and say, hey, if I want to have a pizza for dinner, what can I have throughout the day? Or if I want to have a burger for lunch, what can I have around that? Or I was going to go into more, but I don't need to go into more. But you see the point, right? It's like, I can post about it, but you're still the adult that needs to learn. There's still so much to learn behind it. I can only say so much in a 90-second reel, or in a 3-slide carousel, or in my caption. I have written captions before that when I've gone to paste it into Instagram, because I write it in my notes in Notion, when I go to paste it in my Instagram, it doesn't let me, because it's like, this is too long. And I'm like, oh, so right. I just have so much I want to say and so much I want to word vomit that I can't. So it's take everything you see online with a grain of salt, including the things that I share, but balance is something that I do well and my clients do it well. And I have had clients lose 10, 20 kilos, keep it off after, because they've realized that, because when you learn balance, right, it's not this like 12 weeks restrictive, cut carbs, cut calories, cut all my favorite foods, and then lose 10 kilos, have a slay time, and then you're just going to put it all back on after, because it's not sustainable. Whereas what I teach, which is why, yes, clients have had great results, they generally take longer to get there, is because I teach it in a way where you can have your soul foods, have your drinks, but still know how to actually balance it all, still learn how to track your calories. Like I said, still learn how to train, still know how to make it fit within your lifestyle, still know how to have a meal out and stay on track, still learn how to do all these things. And that is the way that I teach balance, and that's the way it should be. And that's why my clients get such good results. And it's exactly what I do as well with my own training, nutrition, and everything like that. Speaking of balance, I can feel my throat getting dry, and I ran out of my water before, so I'm gonna wrap this up here. But just kind of like a recap, I guess, on my journey. I don't mean to recap it. If you guys want to listen to it, you can go, like I said, 2 episodes ago, so 2 weeks ago. That is all about like the growing up, what it was like growing up as, quote unquote, the overweight kid. I was the non-active kid. Just kind of, comments that were made about me, my body from like 12 years old, very, very like young age to be kind of having all this stuff happen. And then my first kind of couple of years with weight loss. Last week's episode really dove into when it got really, really bad for me. So 1,200 calories, keto, fasting daily, insecurities, no confidence, no energy, binge eating, hiding food, like the really like in-depth stuff, and then kind of how I started to come out of that. And then obviously today you've just listened to it, so I don't need to go into what we spoke to today. But the point of this series, like I said at the first episode, was I really want you guys to see this being all these different evolutions of me, and the way that I teach balance. The people that I coach are people that have been one of three of those. Maybe you've been all of those. Maybe, potentially you're just like, actually, I am not any of those at the moment, but like I want to start getting into, I want to learn about nutrition, I want to learn about training without becoming one of those three people. So really just like they're the kind of people that I teach because I've lived it and I know how to teach it. I know what to do to make sure you don't enter that really restrictive phase. I know what to do to make sure, weight loss doesn't become your entire life being for like 5 years, right? I know how to teach you balance. I know how to teach you training. I know how to teach you all these things so you can actually sustain it and you can maintain the weight loss results much further on, plus actually know what to do once you finish coaching. So that's just my little wrap up. But very exciting because this ties in very nicely. I do have a 12-week challenge starting on the 21st of September. And now challenge always, again, sounds like, restrictive, cut carbs, lose 10 kilos, what. Like, no, like that's not what it is. It is, again, meeting you where you're at and teaching you what you need to know to then succeed post 12 weeks. I very intentionally designed it so it's 21st of September to the 13th of December. 12 weeks, like I said, perfect in time for summer. In Melbourne, we're already getting longer days and I'm so excited. It makes me so happy. Like the sun is up earlier. It's setting later. It makes me so happy. I think we have a 20-degree day today as I'm filming this. So I'm like, this is such a good time. But pretty much it's already happening. If you want to be that person in December that like you're not feeling guilty, come New Year's Day, like, like I shouldn't have eaten all that, or I shouldn't have drank that much, or I shouldn't have done this, or I shouldn't have done. If you want to be that person that can go through Christmas guilt-free, if you want to be that person that can lose the last 5 kilos before the end of the year, say you had a goal at the start of the year, you're like, I want to lose X amount of weight and you're still struggling. I wouldn't say lose more than 5 kilos by the end of the year because that would be entering that restrictive mindset, especially with the silly season coming so soon. But I would say like 5 to 7 kilos max if you've got that to lose. Whatever kind of thing that you have by the end of the year, this challenge is perfect timing for it. Like I said, it is not just a one size fits all. Yes, some things are like cool, like you have set training programs to choose from. There's my recipe library, again, recipes you can choose from. But the main thing is, and one of the key things that I do differently with my challenges that other people don't do, is before we start, we have an onboarding call, which pretty much it sounds like, oh yeah, like cool, whatever. But no, what that does is you'll fill in your onboarding form. We do our onboarding call. I take what you've said in your onboarding form and I use that to guide our call. Some people I've dove really, really deeper into like the nitty gritty, like finding out, discovering binge eating. I could pretty much see why it happens from what they've said. Some people, all fine, no food issues, just here to learn, like so many different things. So then I put a plan in place from that, right? So it's like, say if someone's here to learn, I'm like, cool, we're actually going to spend at least the first 4 weeks tracking and then, or using the food journal, see where you're at after 4 weeks, then we might go to tracking. Or if you're tracking fine in the first 4 weeks, then we can enter a deficit. I would never put anyone into a deficit unless I'm confident that they are solid in their habits, solid in routines, they know how to track properly. Therefore, they're going to lose the weight properly, because the last thing I would want is anyone to like put someone in a deficit and be like, cool, you can lose X amount of weight in 12 weeks and then you don't. Like it just doesn't make sense that way. And I've never had this issue, but if someone, didn't like the way that I did that or wanted to go into deficit straight away, I would actually just be like, no, and then I can't help you. Like you'll have to go find someone else that doesn't care about you and they can do that for you. So really intentional onboarding call, map out your 12-week journey, and then we have a check-in every 4 weeks, like I just said before, so then we can check in, cool, that was our focus for the 4 weeks, how do we go? Nailed it? Cool, this is the next phase for the next 4 weeks. Maybe didn't nail it, okay, we're going to keep working on that for the next 4 weeks. And there's no right or wrong. I have people that, after 4 weeks can go into a deficit, so fine, drop the weight. I've had clients that like a 1-to-1, let's say, we spent like 9 months learning my fitness pal before entering a deficit. Now she's been with me for years now, so she's lost 20 kilos, which is amazing. But we had to spend that 9 months learning to track. So it's just kind of that reminder of like, hey, like I know you want X goal, But we need to make sure that this plan is going to work for you and it's not going to turn around and shoot you in the foot. I don't want you to get into Christmas and feeling like shit because you quote unquote didn't do well when the original plan wasn't designed for you. So that is what I do very well. That is what I do differently. So if you are keen to join us, I will leave the link down below. You can just click on that. It will take you to a landing page. It has all the details, all the pricing, all the things. Special for you guys. I know I've said this before, but there will always be a 10% off code for the podcast listeners. So when you, again, there's links there when you go to check out, just type podcast in the coupon bit and then you get 10% off for the whole 12 weeks, which is very exciting. So with that, if you have any questions, feel free to either comment below or send me a message on Instagram. Otherwise, I'm going to love you and leave you guys. Next week's episode, I've got a special guest on there, which is very exciting. One of my clients, who I am now her client, she's actually my retreat organizer. So very exciting. My retreat as well, may as well talk about it while I'm here, is coming up. It's currently 18th of August. Which means we've got 2 months to the retreat, which is so exciting. There are 3 spots left. So if you are interested, again, details are on my Instagram, which I will leave down below. Otherwise, just send me a message and we can chat about it. Any kind of payment plans work as well. I've had people that, pay monthly, paid in full. I've had someone who paid half in one go and then is splitting the next 2 payments. It's like I can make whatever work. And I can extend it to the end of November as well. So there's plenty of time to pay it off still. But anyway, if any of that interests you, like I said, send me a message on Instagram. Eyes peeled for the next episode next week with Kim. And I'll speak to you guys obviously next week, but also the week after that. Bye.